The down and dirty is I always believe and believed, well, if you don't want it, I'm going to sell it to somebody else. I mean, it is a good piece. I know somewhere along the line I'm going to get another gig that I can take this, have to change the timing, because with commercials, kids, people should know that you're talking there about a 30th of a second. So it's not like you can just lift a piece and plop it over here if you're scoring it, where movement has to happen. And since they measure it in a 30th of a second, you're dealing with those kind of micro moments. But any piece I've ever written for a commercial that was rejected, I can honestly say, ended up in another one someone else paid me to do. I had to rearrange it timing-wise, but so when you have a good piece, even if they totally outright reject it, that was always my mental approach. Fine, I'll go try something else. But that was always preceded with another lengthy conversation. Well, lengthy. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 20 minutes, depending on how well you can hear through the lack of musical vocabulary that's going to be thrust upon your ears when you hear what people want very often. And there are times when you fight. I can very specifically remember a commercial for a major, Fortune 100 or 50 company, and they were doing this early days of animation. They were doing this big animation commercial and spending a fortune. That's the other part you're going to get used to. They're going to spend a fortune on the visual, and you're the afterthought, and you're going to have to scrape for that. But they were treating me, the agency I'd done a lot for, so they always treated me fairly when they could. And I always did. Hell, I still do free music for people now, because you never know, how that's going to play out. But they wanted they brought me in and they said, we want a big score. It's a corporate, they had this idea of it could be a big band or an orchestra and a big band, whatever you want to do, but whatever you want to do. But what we want is a classic conversation. So I check out the script, because they weren't going to have the animation done for a long time. And I settled on kind of a Django Reinhardt, Stefan Grappelli, but it was not guitar, it was solo violin and snare drum with brushes. Totally different from what they wanted. They thought they wanted, and I'll emphasize, they thought they wanted. But I knew it, man. It was going to be killer, man. So I go into the agency a week later with my contract, make sure they sign it, then I share my creative thoughts with them. And I said, well, look, here's what I'm thinking, man. And the guy looks at me and he says, well, that's not at all what we talked about. I said, I know. His name was D. I said, D, but trust me, man, it won't cost me a lot to do a demo for you, so, let me just do that. And he never bought into it. The younger staff dug it because it was like a different thing, for a big thing. And I'll never forget, he approved it. He trusted me. I had done years of work for him. And when I sent the music up they were doing the animation in Canada, and I sent it up there, and the editor apparently put the disc in, to dump it into his computer to lock it up to the picture, because I did ultimately score it to picture. He turned to D and said, this is totally different than I thought. It's great. And D, within 10 seconds, called me and said, man, they love it, thanks. So sometimes you fight the battle along the way, and but I can tell you, I had plan B in my head. If D had ever pulled the plug, I wasn't going to give the money back. So I had a whole nother, I can do what you want, but, trust me on this one. So again, that's about the relationship and developing it, but get used to it, expect to change it. I've had to do some like corporate logos for people, 10-second little things they would use forever in different spots, and they get real picky about that because that's going to be their identity. And I have had ideas that I thought were nailed dead on, and bringing the guy all proud to play it for him and have him go no and walk out. And you're just back at it. So don't take it personal. Don't worry about it. You just keep plugging, and at the right time, fight for the right thing. But understand, if you're a boss and your employee comes in and disagrees with you on something, you can give them the right to fight with you about it, or in the platonic sense, fight about it. But ultimately, you're the boss, and ultimately, they're the boss. So, ultimately, if you want to keep working for them, they have the right to the final call, and you have to know when to stop. But that's like, I guess you can say that's like talking to your parents. At some point when you're 16, you get it, and go, okay, I'm not even going to tell you, I'm just going to do it, because maybe they can't hear it, So there's a lot of ways to I mean, I don't know if this is helpful, but there's just a lot of ways to think about it so you're comfortable with whatever the outcome is.